Many people know Sainte Marie. This place in the center of America, it was very good place to continue the church, Catholic Church, to maintain the true doctrine and the true faith and the true sacrifice of the Mass. My dear brethren, you come from sometime very far to live here in Sainte Marie with the hope that your children receive a good and true Catholic formation.
Anybody who comes to St. Mary's was just refreshed at what a spirit of tradition that's held here.
It's a place of profound spiritual significance.
The first I heard about the Immaculata burning down was in the late 80s.
This is going to be the biggest church that the Society of St. Pius X has ever built. In 1978, when the Society of St. Pius X acquired St. Mary's, there were no parishioners who lived here. As the years went on, the society grew more and more people moved to St. Mary's, putting their children in the academy and attending the parish. Such that 40 years later, we have over 4,000 souls who attend Mass here. My name is Father Patrick Rutledge, and I am the rector here at St. Mary's Academy and College. Currently in St. Mary's, Sundays are very chaotic. There's limited seating in our small chapel, which was an old refectory for the Jesuits. The faithful come to Mass, they're in traffic on Mission Street trying to get into parking. They finally find a parking spot, they walk into Mass, and lo and behold, there's only standing room. Priests come out of the sacristy to try and go give communions. They're stepping over the faithful to try to get to the sanctuary. Lines of faithful are there just simply trying to have space to pray their Mass. Just in the last year, we've even had to move one of our 6 Sunday Masses into our auditorium, just simply so that we would have enough space for the faithful to attend their Sunday Mass. St. Mary's has grown by providence, by her desire, and now it's time to build her church.
So this current project effort actually began in conjunction with a master plan study of the academic campus to look at long-term needs of both the parish and the academy. And it was quickly determined that the size of church needed to adequately serve the size of the parish community today would really squeeze the campus and impact it in negative ways.
We decided to build the Immaculata, our parish church, up near our cemetery.
The site was also selected so that it could allow adequate room for proper layout and planning to provide not only for a very large church structure, but all of the approximate parking. So the new church has been sited on an east-west axis to follow the tradition of siting our churches that the altar faces east into the rising sun. The overall style that we would say the church is being designed in is a Romanesque revival style, meaning that we're referencing those churches of medieval Europe in the perhaps 9th to 14th centuries. The church is laid out in a very traditional Latin cross plan. The building itself, its key exterior features would be the twin bell towers that flank the front facade. as well as the cupola over the crossing of the Latin cross plan, which will be crowned by a statue of Our Lady. The church exterior will be of mostly masonry construction with a couple colors of brick as the main material, with an ample amount of stone accent detailing. In front of that front facade of the church, we have a large plaza to help gather the faithful before and after Mass. Once you would pass from the porch and through the front doors, you'll come into the narthex of the church. You'll be able to see down the central aisle clear to the sanctuary. As you move down the nave to each of your sides, there are side aisles that are divided and screened from the central nave by an arcade carried on a row of Corinthian columns. For the design of the interior of the church, we drew inspiration from several of the major station churches of Rome, such as St. Paul's outside the walls and Santa Maria Maggiore. Going to Rome and going to these older and grander churches, I found that it does stir the soul. It does inspire you further in a way that you don't get in a simpler church. The sanctuary is surrounded by a colonnaded ambulatory, and flanking each side of the sanctuary then will be two major side chapels, one dedicated to St. Pius X and the other to the Sacred Heart. The new church, as it's been designed to date, seats 1,550 people. In order to do that comfortably, the church is very large. The main floor level of the church alone is 30,000 square feet, which, to give one a sense of that, if you're familiar with the current Assumption Chapel, we would be able to fit 4 of those into the first floor of the church. We then have 4,000 square feet at the cry room level, and above that another 4,000 square feet in the choir loft. So those 2 spaces alone would be the equivalent of your current chapel. The building in its entirety on the exterior is 287 feet long, which is nearly the length of a football field. The towers rise to 108 feet in height to the crosses, and the statue of Our Lady tops out at 119 feet above the main floor level of the church. The basement, with 27,000 square feet for itself, will accommodate not only most of the restrooms required for the number of people that could be in the building, but it will allow us to immediately provide a very generous parish hall that can be used for parish activities other than Mass.
Over time, with the growth of the society, with the simple fact that our communities are getting bigger, with the fact that now it is clear that this crisis will most probably last for much longer, we have to think of the souls of our faithful and especially of the souls of our children.
I asked Father Wegner and the district to be heavily involved in the project to secure the stability of this project from its inception all the way to its completion.
This project is much more than simply a local project or a national project. It is done as a work of the society and will survive the changes of priests that are assigned to St. Mary's.
So this project is a $30 million project. That amount of $30 million is partly due to how large this project is. We're talking that it's going to seat 1,500 people. The height of it is going to be up to 12 stories high. It's a huge project. Part of that is because the need, when you start to add that many people to an edifice or to a space, you have to have it even larger. It grows almost exponentially, the needs.
Over 2.5 years, I've been working with Father Wegner and Father Rutledge, Dave Height, and our entire team to try and make this project flow properly. Whether it's talking about how the parking lot works when you have 500 cars coming in and going out from one Mass time to the next, and how everyone gets onto small arterial roads, or whether the more aspirational things like the beauty and vault of the ceiling, All of these things need a tremendous amount of planning, and we've been working on it for a very long time to make those things come together so that we can now move forward into something that people are going to actually see.
So with a building of this size, seemingly small or simple decisions that on a much smaller project really would be that simple, here, because of the number of times that element or that detail might occur throughout the building, those small changes, those small increases to cost can quickly begin to add up and have the potential to begin to quickly derail the project's budget.
If you were building this project 100 years ago, there would be very few trades. The level of skill would be very high, but there would be very few trades. Now we have a tremendous number of systems, engineers, and technical aspects of the project that all have to come together in one place without driving the budget through the roof.
The intention of a church building is the construction of a place where man can get away from what is normal, what is usual, what is casual, and where man can find something that is lasting, something that is remaining over a long period of time. A church has to be a building where the man gets a sense of eternity. For the consecration of the church, we always say these words, terribilis est locus Easter. This place is terrifying. This place is very special because it's the place where God resides.
Throughout time, but especially in recent history, Our Lady has explicitly chosen places to be centers of grace, centers of devotion to her and to her Immaculate Heart. But she has also implicitly chosen places as well by her evident guidance and protection over them. To me, St. Mary's is one of these places.
St. Mary's was originally a Jesuit mission, founded in 1848 to serve the Potawatomi Indians. It later grew into a men's college. From St. Mary's College came significant figures who touched American history and culture. Charles Comiskey, founder of the Chicago White Sox; Gutzon Borglum, sculptor of Mount Rushmore; Father Finn, author of the Tom Playfair series; and Lieutenant William Fitzsimmons, who was to be the first American officer to give his life in the trenches of France during World War I. Over 700 alumni of St. Mary's served in the war, and no fewer than 19 gave their lives. To this day, the memorial arch still stands in their honor and memory. During this collegiate period, Father Cornelius Shine rallied a group of alumni to fund and build the crowning jewel of the campus, a church, under the title and patronage of the Immaculata. With St. Mary's now transformed into a Jesuit seminary, the Immaculata took on a priestly character, a sign of faith, a symbol of hope, and a place of sacrifice where over 1,000 priests were ordained. Meanwhile, a young priest with the same apostolic spirit was completing his missionary work in the flat plains of Africa. This priest, Father Lefebvre, was destined to look upon the work of Father Shine, but in very different circumstances. Only a few decades after the Immaculata's completion, the changes in the Church from Vatican II started to take effect. The Jesuit order decided to consolidate the once prosperous St. Mary's with the provincial headquarters in St. Louis. This left the campus in St. Mary's a ghost town, and the Immaculata completely abandoned. But it was not the last time that St. Mary's would hear the footsteps of hurrying students or the swish of priestly cassocks. For in 1978, the hand of Providence guided Father Lefebvre, now Archbishop Lefebvre, from Europe to this small Kansas town. Inspired by the Immaculata's beauty and motivated by the respect he had for such a priestly place, the Archbishop decided that St. Mary's would find new life with his priestly society of St. Pius X. During some early renovations in November of 1978, just months after the property was purchased, a devastating fire took hold at the Immaculata.
Well, I remember Jerry had called and he could hardly talk. I had been in St. Mary's several weeks before that and got to see the church. And when he called me, it was just, he just said the church burned. And he couldn't even speak. They had put so much work into it and it was just beautiful. And it was gone.
Despite such a setback, the parish continued to grow, and its growth only increased year after year. A temporary location for Mass was renovated from the old cafeteria. Although he was to return to Europe, the Archbishop, who had visited 5 times, left with a fond farewell.
Oh, I thank you very much. It's going well for St. Mary's, and now I return in Switzerland, and is like St. Mary's. St. Mary is growing. Many babies. God bless you. Goodbye.
St. Mary's continued to grow. With such expansion, the growing needs for classrooms trumped the funds required to properly rebuild the church.
St. Mary's started a long time ago with the Jesuits, and they were actually laying the foundation. That foundation is something that we've been able to grow with, and so looking at the different rectors that we have, they've all added their own special touches, and we can't help but continue to add our own.
I come from a small parish scenario originally. So just having access to daily Mass, frequent access to the priest, the liturgy, the sacraments, it has a way of deepening your spiritual life and just life in general.
Offering up the sacrifice to God. Now,
it was increasingly clear that St. Mary's was becoming the centrally located Catholic hub as the Archbishop had envisioned it. The private school started with some 30 students. Now today has almost 900.
St. Mary's, from a very small place that nobody knew before, developed into a town in Kansas that all across the traditional world everybody knows. And we can say that this change from being unknown to be very well known across the world goes along with the development of tradition, where in the beginning everybody thought it's only a small group around an old archbishop and a group that will disappear as soon as the archbishop dies, has developed to a congregation of over 700 priests, which gets more and more importance across the world, which stands now for a renewal of the faith, not just here in St. Mary's, but all across the United States and across the world.
The first I heard about the Immaculata burning down was in the late 80s. In the last 2.5 years, it's been particularly important to me to see this come back together and be what I think is part of a movement that's sweeping the entire Catholic world, this move towards tradition. And I think this church is going to be a key element in that.
If Archbishop Lefebvre could see this work as it's beginning to unfold, he would be so happy, especially for St. Mary's in the United States, because he wanted St. Mary's to be a place of renaissance for the Catholic faith in the United States.
I'm pretty sure it would be a great consolation for the Archbishop to see how his initial initiative, we can say his act of faith in St. Mary's, worked out and inspired so many people.
It's a safe haven for a lot of families. A lot of people have sort of made, if you will, a certain pilgrimage to St. Mary's with their families to have a place where they can live a Catholic life.
My dad, who was a convert to the faith, made a sacrifice in his career to move to St. Mary's because he realized that she truly is a microcosm of the faith. And he wanted to give his kids opportunities that he never had growing up.
St. Mary's is a safe haven because it gives the crucial fundamentals of the Catholic faith all in one spot. And if you take advantage of them, you can really become the strong individual you have to be in today's world.
Coming to St. Mary's, it's been amazing. I've worked in other schools, both public and private. And when I came to St. Mary's, the thing that really gave me hope for the future of the tradition and of our schools is seeing the generosity and the talent and the wonderful spirit that is within all of our students here at St. Mary's.
It has the largest concentration of people who are striving for the same thing, through the Catholic faith to reach God, and through the protection of Our Lady, which is why the town is called St. Mary's.
St. Mary's, through the priests, the sisters, the liturgy, daily mass, benediction, and the good atmosphere, provides the full package for a Catholic life.
Anybody who comes to St. Mary's was just refreshed at what a spirit of tradition that's held here.
As Catholics, we want to live our faith, and what better way to do that than to build the new Immaculata, which is a symbol of our faith.
We speak of a multi-million-dollar project. We speak of a church with over 1,500 places to seat faithful. And this is the biggest church the society ever built.
We're building a building that evokes all the same emotions and feels just as monumental and is going to last for hundreds of years, but doing it with modern techniques and making sure that we are always on budget.
Back in 2008, we had raised and had on hand around $800,000. Since then, we have raised more and we're into the millions. So now, as we start this ongoing campaign to obtain pledges for finishing the fundraising, we already have $15 million in the bank.
What inspires me most in this project is the idea of be a part of something that marks the souls and the history, Catholic history of this place.
St. Mary's isn't Lourdes, it's not Fatima, but Our Lady's clearly protected this place. It was dormant for 10 years. Now look at it. A town named after her by Father Verate has come to life again. And so let's do it. Let's build this church again for the church as a beacon of hope, as a symbol of restoration. Let's do it for our society and for Archbishop Lefebvre, whose vision for St. Mary's was spot on. But above all, let's do it for Our Lady. Do it for our Mother. When you give to the Immaculata, you're not giving to the parish or the college, you're not giving to the academy, you're not giving to anybody but to the Immaculata. You're giving to her.